right, and welcome to Tarot Tuesday here at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoga, and we are streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. Moderating today on YouTube are the lovely Vanessa and the lovely I Am Her Eminence, and moderating on Twitch is the lovely Deline. Thank you so much, moderators. And thank you, Dre, also, it looks like, is on here. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. We're going to have a brief, as normal, tends to be brief, tarot class. Today we are covering the pips in the key of swords, in the suit of swords. So let's get started with that. You know all the other stuff. We do have chat threads going, so you can ask me questions if you'd like, right on the chat thread. And you can look in the video description for all of the links and things like that. And we do appreciate all of your support and all of that, but we don't have time for all my announcements. We're going to get right to this lesson. Let me get my notes here so I don't forget what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, swords. Okay, so we're going to start out with this Ace of Swords. Now, aces are the roots, or you could even say the seed of the entire suit. Now, swords tend to represent stress, conflict, and authority. And not all this, a lot of times people think that the swords are negative, and that's not true. I'd say maybe half of them are. And the aces are always positive. The aces are always the most positive expression of the suit because they're the winner of that whole suit. So if you're playing the game of tarot and you're trying to take a trick in the suit of swords, and you have the ace, provided you don't have provided your opponents don't have any trump cards to place on it, you win. So this is the winning card within the suit, and it especially means winner in the suit of swords. And you can even see that. This big hand with a sword, with a crown. I win. I'm the winner. And that's what that means. Now, in the old, in the suit of spades, in the regular playing card deck, in the old cartomancy, ace of swords or spades also could mean authority itself. And it could also be a card that represented stress. And it still can. And if if your intuition and the other cards surrounding it suggest that, it could mean that. But rarely do I see it that way. Usually for me, this is an overcoming of something. This is a triumph. Now, twos in general represent impatience and impulsiveness. Not always, but they can. And in the suit of swords, that's with conflict. And remember, swords not only are conflict, but they can often represent the element of air, which means mind and thought. The way that you are being usually the way I look at the two of swords is it's being recommended that the way that you deal with impulsiveness and that you deal with impatience is by getting your mind focused. So the two of swords is usually a call for focus, a need for focus. Now, the old-timey cartomancy would say that the two of swords means a temporary amnesty. So you're getting off a problem, out of a problem, at least temporarily, so that you can find a solution. So that could possibly be a meaning for it as well, depending on how you're viewing it and what else is surrounding it. Now, threes are Saturn. So Saturn is restriction sometimes. Saturn can be cause and effect or karma. And it also can be relationships. Swords are conflict. So frequently the three of swords is the card of separation, the card of loss, and sometimes even the card of divorce. The old cartomancy keywords were rupture. Also can represent delay in something. It can represent a definite delay. So it's not usually the most positive of cards. Usually when you get the three of swords in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the three of swords are piercing a heart. So it's really upplaying the heartache aspect of it. but it can be any kind of separation, any kind of conflict, internal conflict, and frequently this is because it's a Saturn. It's been building up for a long time. It's usually not something that's just out of the blue. Okay, now 4s are Jupiter. Jupiters represent mercy and prosperity and good, loving kindness, and there's always something benefic that's coming out of it. There's a beneficial outcome when Jupiter is present. Jupiter in the pips usually represent that you need to do something in order to invoke that power. Usually it is some sort of bringing order to your life. It's saying that the way that you bring order to conflict in your life is to withdraw from the conflict. So this is usually a card of withdrawal, disengagement. Go away, walk away. It's usually with the best action when you get a 4 of Swords. Now the cartomancy version of the 4 of Spades is solitude or retreat. It says here in my notes that it's retreat often caused by health or finance. So it's like a forced retreat. I don't always see it that way. I always see it as you having to choose to retreat, you having to choose to withdraw and to really disengage, because that's how you're going to turn on the mercy, turn on the abundance, turn on the Jupiter. So that's how I read it. Okay, the 5s are Mars, and Mars tends to be conflict, especially in the suit of conflict. So it's conflict of conflict. 5 of Swords is usually not the nicest card. It's usually conflict for conflict's sake, which can be things like bullying, and abuse and cruelty. In the old cartomancy, the keywords were usually loss, affliction, bereavement, and defeat. So this can be a card of defeat as well. It's just such a mean-spirited card. And whenever this card comes up, I always remind myself or whoever gets it that if this is you that's causing this, you need to stop. And if it's happening to you, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. And usually there's some cards surrounding it that are going to give you a game plan on how to escape this. And if it's just the card by itself, if it's just a 1-card reading and I get the 5 of Swords, it usually means that I need to really ground and center, call on my higher power, and find a way to stop this. No matter what, there's a way out of this. But don't put up with the cruelty, either from myself or from another person. All right, then we've got the 6 here. 6s are always, in my tarot, are always some sort of divine intervention, some sort of higher power filling in the gaps where I can't make anything happen. The old, it's interesting because the old cartomancy version of the 6 of Spades is turmoil and struggle, but it can also mean travel. I don't see it that way. It's usually a release from struggle, a release from turmoil, but only if I let go, or only if the person lets go of their own investment, their own ideas of what to do. They have to let go and accept the higher power, accept that intervention. And a lot of times we don't want to do that. And so that's when you can have that struggle. A lot of times you don't want to let go. You don't want to trust a higher power. You know best. And this is a card that's really encouraging you that you don't know best, and that there is help, and that you want to ask for that help. Okay, 7s are Venus, and in my tarot, the Venus cards are similar to the 6s. 6s and 7s are always positive. The 6s are always positive because there's a higher power available. 7s are always positive because there's luck that's happening, turnaround, improvement and upgrade is happening. Beautification is happening. The 7 in the old cartomancy of Swords represents hope. And that goes right along in line with my interpretation of the Seven of Swords. It's not the hope like you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping superstitiously. It means more of a faith that things are working out, that where there was a problem, the solution is making itself known. It's revealing itself, and that resolution is, if not in process, on its way imminently, and that your job is to do your best to beautify your environment, to beautify everything you can, and to really look for the solution, to look for the upgrade, and not allow yourself to be obsessed with the old problem. You want to let go of the old problem and recognize that it is upgrading, it is turning around, and good is happening. All right, we've got this beautiful Eight of Swords. Eights represent Mercury. Now, for me, when Mercury is in the swords, it tends to represent thought loops, obsessive thinking, really closed thought processes where you just going around and around and around, and you can't stop thinking about something, and it's usually a real negative thing. But even if it was a positive thing, it's not positive if you're obsessing over it. So this idea of obsessive thinking needs to be brought to the surface when this comes up, because a lot of times when you're thinking obsessively, you don't know you're thinking obsessively. You don't recognize it because you're caught in the obsession. So you're not thinking, oh, I'm thinking obsessively right now. No, you're just doing it. And so when this comes up, it's an alert. Get out of your head. Quit. Stop. And so that's usually when I recommend things like the off switch and other techniques to shut down the obsessive thinking, because it's really standing in the way. Now, the old cartomancy keyword for the Eight of Swords is criticism. That's not as all-encompassing of an idea, but if that word criticism pops up in your mind now when you get the Eight of Swords in a reading, it could just mean that that's what it's representing. But you have to take everything in the reading into account. You can't always say, well, it always means this or always means that, but it could definitely mean criticism. Okay, here we have the Nine of Swords. Nine is moon, and it's usually magnetism, and swords is conflict. So usually it's how you're thinking. You got to be careful of how you're thinking right now, because you are actually drawing more problems to yourself, because this is the card of worry. This is usually the card of worry, and it's where you just are so, it's a type of obsession like in the Eight of Swords, but it's not so much obsessing about something energetically. It's more that you are expecting the worst, and that you just really are so worried. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't do the things that you need to do because you're so worried, and you really need to get a hold of your mind. It's a very similar card in some ways as the Eight, only it's an extension of it. It's become to the point where it's really affecting your life, and you're pulling negative things into your life. Now, the old cartomancy keywords for this are very different. It can represent an unmarried or unattached person, and it can also represent unseen complications or hidden enemies or adversaries. And all of that can be true. All of that can be true. But the biggest enemy here is usually your worry. And that recognizing that worry is not a powerful way of using the mind, and it's actually causing more problems than solving them. And then finally, we have our Ten of Swords. Tens are the outcomes, and usually they are the outcomes that can be the eternality of our situation if we keep them perpetuating. And they are usually self-induced, but they're also something that can be a forever thing. And so that's a great thing if it's the happily ever after card of the Ten of Cups, or of the Ten of Coins, or even the Ten of Wands. Can be somewhat positive, although I don't find that so positive because it's usually burden. Usually the tens in the masculine suits of Wands and Swords aren't so positive. And this is the least positive of all, because swords represent conflict, and this is the natural outcome of conflict. And the key words to this in my tarot are live by the sword, die by the sword. And usually when you get those negative outcomes from the Ten of Swords, it's of your own making on some level or another, even though the tendency usually when the Ten of Swords is happening is pointing the finger. And that's what perpetuates it. You're always pointing the finger at them, pointing the finger at them. They did it, they did it, they did it, they did it, and you never get to the bottom of it, and it perpetuates if you're not careful. The cartomancy keywords for the old-fashioned cartomancy are failure and affliction, which is definitely true, but you got to look under the hood of that failure and that affliction and recognize it's not just happening arbitrarily because of some planetary transit. It's happening because of something you were involved with, either mentally or in your actions, or somehow you've had your hand in this. And the problem with the Ten of Swords is that usually the people that are going through that are constantly saying, I had nothing to do with this. This is not me. It's them, it's them, it's them, which makes it even more difficult for them to fix it. So this is an important come to Jesus moment usually when you've got that Ten of Swords to just say, whoa, I've been involved in something that I need to quit. And when you do that, then you can stop it in its tracks. But usually when people get the Ten of Swords, they don't want to take responsibility for their part in it. And that's the pips of the swords there. All right, we've got one more week of the pips, and then we'll probably do some court cards, and we'll get on to some other stuff. Thank you so much for being here today. I so appreciate you. I hope this was helpful for you. And thank you to the amazing moderators, Vanessa, I Am Her Eminence, and Deline. I don't think we have any questions, so we will end the stream and I will get to work. Thanks again for being here, and thank you to the moderators. We'll see you soon. Blessed be.